If you're new to 3D printing, then you're probably looking for a slicer that'll cut up all of those really cool models you've been finding online. Stick around because I'm going to show you 4 of the top free 3D printing slicers for beginners. Hey, I'm Richard with TheFirstLayer, and on this channel we do 3D printing tutorials, reviews, and live streaming videos to help you get the most out of your 3D printing experience. Hey, if you're new here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, ding the little bell so you get notified every time that we do a brand new episode. Well, we've got a lot to cover today because we're going to be covering 3D printing slicers, and I've got 4 of the best free options for you. Let's head over to the computer and start looking at them right now. Okay, so up on the screen right now we have Matter Control. Matter Control is a slicing and somewhat of a design software. It is by Matter Hackers. You can download it from their website. I'm going to put down or links to all of these slicers that we talked about today down in the description below, so you can go ahead and download them and try them for yourself. On a later episode, I'm going to be going into detail about all of these. Today is just a general overview. Let's start with Matter Control. As we've got it up here on the screen, we can see I've already added a printer, the Mingda D2. I had to do this manually, and again, I will show you that in a later video. But let's quickly run through what Matter Control can do for you as a 3D printing enthusiast. So first and foremost, we're going to hit the Matter Control hamburger, and here you're going to find help. There's an interface tour, which you will get once you load this. You can check for updates, you can have settings, you can be a part of the community, and here's a little bit about Matter Control itself. As we go across the top, we can see that we can just click a little button here and we can upgrade to the Matter Control Pro Edition, which does come with a price tag, but it does open up a lot more features. Now, that being said, the free version of Matter Control is also very powerful and it is very easy to use. Now, on the next tab, we have our library, and we have design apps, downloads, history, library, and printers. And you can see here that we also have different shapes that we can utilize from the library that are already pre-made for us. If we go down to printers, we can see that we have the Mingda D2. There is an SD card, and then there's other parts. There's not a lot in that folder. Actually, there's nothing in that folder because we've set up the Mingda D2, and that is the printer that we're using. If we go into hardware, you will see that we had a Creality Ender 3 in here, and we can do some of the things to this and add an Ender 3 as well. So if we open this up, we can see that we've now added the Ender 3. I had added it previously and then I took it away. But I can turn on as many printers as I want up here, and we can go ahead and just continue our tour through this. So we have the Mingda D2, which I had to set up separately, and the Creality Ender 3. There are a number of different manufacturers available to you that are already preset. So all you have to do is just open them up. You don't have to use the Matter Hackers printers that they sell. You can use just about any printer that they have here. Again, down the side, we can see we've got all of these different tabs. And now we'll go into the next one. We can connect our printer to the computer if we so choose. We have a print button here that will allow us to change the layer thickness. We can change the density or for the infill. We can create a raft. We can create supports. There's also an advanced tab. We can go into spiral mode. We can also export the STL file to our SD card when we use the export once we've sliced the model. Now, if we go into the slice tab, we just click on slice and it'll slice whatever model that we have put there. Let's go down into here. First and foremost, we get the model view. We have a 3D layer view, and then we have a 2D layer view as well. Continuing across the top, we have our hot end temperature and our bed temperature. Now, if you're connected to your printer via your computer through an SD cable, an SD cable, then you would be able to control all of that from inside Matter Control. Here we can add content. We can, again, open a recent file. We can edit, print, export, and clear the bed. The next one over is to open a file. We can also save a file. Our other areas here are grayed out until we open up a file. So we are going to go ahead and just open up a quick file here. We'll go over to my book and we will grab an STL file. So we've got our benchy in place. And we can orbit around it and see exactly what it looks like. We can click on it. And you can see now we have all of this open to us, all of these extra tools. So we can undo it, we can redo it, we can arrange the model. Click the model again. We can also ungroup the model. We can duplicate it, we can remove it, we can generate support, we can scale it up or down. This is your placement if you had at least 2 parts on the bed. Then we can do a curvature. I don't know why we'd want to do a curvature. We can do image converter. So we can actually bring in an image and say make a lithophane. And we'll show you how to do that again at a later date. And we can do linear extrude. We can subtract, a linear array. There's a mesh repair tool. There's a convert to support, and then fit into the bounds. If I went fit into the bounds of that box, there it is. It is fitted into that box. Now let's have a look over at our tabs here. In the first one, we have our slicer settings. So we have standard quality, and then we also have PLA. We can go in and control the 3D printer from the movement controls here if we're connected to the printer. And then finally, we have the G code that is generated for our 3D print. All right, so let's go down. If we go here, we can see the general information that we need. We have features that we can turn on and off. And then of course that G code. So if we go back to the slice settings, we're going to see we have a generals tab. There's different tabs under different ones of these settings. Then we have a speed tab, a bed adhesion tab. This is where you're going to create a skirt or a raft or a brim. We have our support. We can create perimeters. And then, of course, we have our filament. So that is, in a nutshell, what Matter Control is. It's a very powerful little program that will allow you to do a lot more than you thought you could. Okay, up next we have Prusa Slicer. And here is the newest Prusa Slicer 2.3.0. There is a lot of functionality in this particular piece of software. This, I would say, is going to rival Cura very, very soon. If I had to pick anything to be a match to Cura, Prusa Slicer would be it. Let's start up at the top. We'll start with the File menu. And we have all of our usual suspects here. We can import and export our STLs. We can repair STLs. We have a G-code previewer. We can quit the program. We move over to edit. We have all the usual suspects there as well. Select, deselect, delete selected, delete all, that sort of stuff. In the window, we have the platter, filament settings, printer settings, and print settings tabs. We also have the print host upload queue. Then over in the view, we have the different views that are available to you. And in the configuration wizard, this is where you're going to configure for your 3D printer. If you don't have, your printer is not listed, you're going to have to put it in manually. But let's use the wizard. So when you open up the wizard, this is what you're going to see. And you can see we can add Prusas, both of their FDM and their SLA printers. We can add Creality from other vendors. We can also add FL Sun, Bebo, Trilabs, Lulzbot, and Anycubic. Let's just do the Creality one for starters. We're going to do the Creality Ender 3 BL Touch because we have one of those up in the lab. And then we're just going to hit next, and it's just going to walk you through this. You can define a custom profile, or you can go with the settings that they've already got. You can add filament profiles to this if you so choose. Let's go with Creality Ender 3 BL Touch. And you can select more than one. You can select them all. You can select just one of them. We're going to use the BL Touch. We're going to say all, and let's go all for the different filaments as well. You see when we click that little button down there that says all, it will make sure that they are all checked. We can hit next, and built-in updates is fine. Check for application updates is fine. We can export full path names of the models and the parts sourced into a .3mf file and AMF files. Why would you want to do this? Depending on the other software that you may have available to you. We can associate files. We want to make sure that both of those are checked. And then we have 3 modes that we can do here. I always suggest that you put it on expert mode. If you use Imperial, then you'll want to make sure that you're using inches. And then we're just going to simply click finish. Now over here in our print settings, or printers, pardon me, we have a couple of different printers. There's the BL Touch. So let's check that one off. And you can see that our bed has now changed to reflect what an ender does. Now this white line that you're seeing here that borders the entire bed, that is your safe zone. Anything on the inside of that box is your safe zone for printing. Anything outside of that box will, you'll be alerted that it's not a good file or it's not going to print properly. Let's bring in a file. We'll bring in Anubis. We'll say okay. And we can move around in 3D space if we like. Some of the nice features, and I'm going to get into these when we do a much more in-depth look at the Prusa Slicer, but I do want to go through some of these different settings that we have. First and foremost, we have the platter, which is what we're seeing here. Then we have the print settings, which we see here, and you'll notice, watch this side, watch the left side of the screen. When I go to simple, it only gives me simple controls. If I go into advanced or into expert, it opens up everything for me and allows me to go and tweak things as I need to tweak. We have our filament settings, and then we have our printer settings. Custom G code, you can see that there is the G code for the Ender 3. And we are now going to go back to the platter so we can see what we're doing and talk a little bit about some of the tools here. All right, so let's start here up at the top. We can add, we can subtract, we can delete, we can arrange, we can copy, we can paste. We can also add an instance, subtract an instance, and do a search. We also can use variable layer height, so we can adjust the layers as they're going up. And of course, we can do undo. Down the side here, we have move. So if we click that, we can move the model anywhere in 3D space. Pardon me. If we wanted to elongate this, we could. Wanted to make it fatter or taller or shorter, we could do that as well. Let's just undo all of that and get back to our normal. We could also go ahead and spin this around if we wanted to. So we can spin it that way, we can spin it this way, and of course we can spin it this way. All right. Now we can also place it on the face. So let's say, let's just say we were going to place it there. Now that's where it would place the face. That's not the face, of course, that we want. We want it to place it on the bottom. Always your flattest aspect is better. We can also slice the model into 2 pieces if we wanted to. We could do adaptive supports or paint on supports. This is really, really cool. And I want to show you this in a much more in-depth way. But for now, let's just say that you can literally paint on the supports where you want them. If we go in and just get a closer look at this. All right, well, let's go back there and you can see where I painted in these supports. And you see how it went all the way around and caught stuff that I wasn't able to see. So you can paint on supports, which is something that they never had before. This is going to be a really big feature going forward. And then we can also paint on our seam line. Wherever we want to put our seam line that we can hide it, we can just paint it right on there. Go all the way to the top. There's our seam. Pretty cool stuff. So now that we've covered the basics over here, we're going to find whether we want it simple, advanced, or expert. We have our print settings for this particular Mingda D2. We are using a Creality. We're using some filament. Down here, we can go ahead and slice it. It slices quite fast. And you can see that's where we painted on all of those supports. Now, the blue that you're seeing there are areas that should have support material. So if you're unsure, you can actually go back and fix that up, which is kind of cool. Just by clicking this button right down here in the bottom corner where I am covering things up. Pardon me. So there is a button here where you can go back and you can go ahead and add in supports where you need to add supports. So let's move on to our next program. All right, so we're in here with our third entry into our free beginner slicer softwares. This one comes to us from Raise 3D. This is called ideaMaker. It is a really cool piece of software. You can do quite a bit of stuff with it. Has a little bit of a learning curve. It is free as well. And let's just have a look at some of the things that we can do here. Starting up at the top, we have File, and you'll find everything that you need to know underneath the file. We have our Edit tab. We can go down into Preferences and turn on and turn off different preferences. We have Slice, so we can slice a model. There's View, Model, Repair, so you can do some minor repairs of your model here in ideaMaker. There's also printers, so this is where you would add printers as well. You can see here that we have the Mingda D2 and all of the Raise printers. If we wanted to add a printer, again, we just go to the configuration wizard. We would go down to other third-party printers, and we would go ahead and fill in all of the details for our printer. Now, the one thing about ideaMaker is it doesn't have a whole lot of presets other than what Raise 3D has set up for them. Now, you could, of course, build these out yourself if you're a little bit more experienced, but they do consider this to be a beginner profile or a beginner slicer because it is fairly easy to use. Let's go ahead and load in a model. We'll load in that Anubis model one more time. So there we are. And we can see now all of our tools have opened up to us. So down in the bottom corner here, we can see that what the model is. Bounding box, it's got a check mark saying that it's watertight. So we can go ahead and put this together. Tells us how many triangles, what the edges are, how many edges we have, non-manifold edges, and error orientation faces. If these had numbers in it, you would see an X here, and then you could just go up to repair and repair the model. Over here we have model info. We have lists of models. We also can go ahead and slice here, a pre-group and slice, and then we can upload the file to the printer by connecting again through a USB cable. All right, so we have our add model, which we've already done. We can also use the import models function as well. We can view our model. We can pan. We can go ahead and move the model if we so choose. We can rotate the model just like we would just by grabbing any one of those. We can scale the model up or down. We can also input numbers over here if we so chose. We could cut the model. We could go ahead and put supports on the model if we wanted to. Let's just do an auto support and we'll see exactly where it's supporting. All the supports are going to go. And of course, we can adjust all that as well. We also have modifiers. We can add modifiers to this, which is kind of neat. Not that we would need to. We can max fit the model, so we'd have to select the model again, max fit. It's now going to fit into the actual height of, it won't go beyond its build volume. So that's kind of neat. We can duplicate the model, repair the model, connect to the printer if we so chose through a USB cable. There's a library and the Raised Cloud. You are going to have to sign in if you want to use the Raised Cloud, and I don't know if there is a fee for that, but it is, the interface is as simple as it's going to get. The GUI is really good, so there's really not a whole lot to do inside of here other than just bring your printers, load up your printer, and if you've got a printer that's not listed, again, you're going to have to find out what all of those different codes are. Now, I have used this to print a model, and I will be showing you this in greater detail again as we break it down feature for feature in a upcoming video. All right, so let's get on to our last and final 3D printing slicer software. Before I get into our next slicer, I'd like to know if you're getting value out of today's video. If you are, please go ahead and hit that like button. Also, leave a comment down below letting me know what slicer you're currently using. Hey, if you're new here, consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you get notified every time that we put up a brand new episode just like this one. And you'll want to stay in touch because we're going to be covering all of these slicers that we talk about today in a future episode dedicated to each one of these slicers, showing you how to use them and giving you kind of a more in-depth look at each one of them. So coming in at the tail end of all of this is our good friend Cura. Now, Cura has come a long, long way. You can see here that I have my Mingda D2 and I have several other printers to which I own also added in here. So, you know, we've done this before. If you're unsure how to use Cura, I've got plenty of videos on it. All you have to do is just go and check our tutorial section playlist and you will find tons of videos on Cura there. But I am going to go in deeper into Cura because there are some things that have changed and we will do that in an upcoming video as well. So let's just quickly talk about Cura. It is the de facto standard free slicing software, so it's what all other softwares that are free now are comparing to. And if I had to compare this to any of the ones we've already looked at, I would say that Prusa Slicer is coming the closest. It's got some features that kind of outdo Cura in a way, but they don't have nearly as many profiles. If we wanted to go in and add a printer, of course, we would just simply go in and add a printer, and you can see there are tons of different printers available from different manufacturers in here. You can even see we've got the Lot Max, and we have an SC10, so we could add an SC10. We also have the Shark as well, so we could add that one in, and those would already be there for us. Unfortunately, we don't have the Mingdas in here yet, but I assume that as time goes on, they will. If you wanted to do your own version of a printer, you could certainly do that by going back up, and you'll see here where it says custom. And you could just do a custom FFF printer, put in the name, and then go ahead and add all of the stuff that you needed to add. We've already done that, so we're not going to do it again, but let's quickly go through some of the tools that you have here in Cura. First and foremost, we have the file menu where we can load a new project. We can export our files. We can reload all the models that were on the plate. Different view scenarios. We have camera positions, camera views, perspective or orthographic, and then we can toggle it full screen. We have our different settings. We have extensions. Now, I have a number of extensions added to mine, so you may want to do this. And as we go into Cura in depth in a later video, I'm going to talk about all of these different plugins that I have here. And then, of course, there's the preferences and the help. Now, if we hit about, we can tell you exactly what version we're running. 4.8.0. We are not running the new Arcanus version, I believe it's called. But Cura is the de facto standard. 90% of printers that come out on the market today have some version of Cura that will be bundled along with them as your slicing software. And usually manufacturers will go ahead and tailor it just for them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It all depends on the manufacturer. So here we can load in a file. Let's go ahead and load in a calibration cube real quick. So there's our calibration cube. Once the calibration cube or model is loaded, we can see that we now have access to a number of different tools. We'll start here with the lock model tool. So we can lock its position. You can see as we move around, those numbers start to change. And we can lock the position wherever we want. We can go also down to the next one, which is going to allow us to scale the model up or down. This feature I really like in the rotate. Now we have a alignment tool, so we can put a flat face right down onto the bed. And then we have the next tool down, which will allow us to, let's see. There we go. It's our object list file. Next down to that, this is our mesh file, so we can do different things with the mesh. I have custom supports turned on, and then we have a support blocker as well. So it's quite easy to use. Here you're going to find all of your different materials, and here you are going to find all of your different settings. If this is not turned on, it will look like this. If it looks like this, you can just go ahead and hit the custom button, and it will open up a much more detailed look at the different settings that you have. Now, I have all settings turned on, and if you wanted to do that, you'd go up to preferences, and you just want to go down to settings, and where it says settings visibility, you're just going to hit check all, and it will turn on every available setting that Cura has. Now, that can be either good or bad, depending on your experience with 3D printing. What I recommend first and foremost, just get some of your prints out and just start printing with them. If it's not working for you and you need to have a little bit more control over them, then go ahead, hit that custom button and start diving into some of the different values that you can change. You can get yourself into real trouble by changing the wrong values and end up with prints that don't quite look right. Again, like I said, we're going to go ahead and go through all of these slicers one by one in the upcoming weeks and really show you how to use them and then allow you to decide which one is best for you. This is going to run for the next 5, maybe 6 weeks. So stick around and make sure that you hit us up next week for the first look. We're going to start with Prusa Slicer, and then we're going to move on to Matter Control, ideaMaker, and then finally into Cura. Question of the day: which of the 4 slicers that we've shown you today might fit into your workflow? Leave your comment down below. Hey, listen, if you got value out of today's video, please go ahead and hit that like button. Also, if you are new here, welcome, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also the little bell so you get notified every time that we do a brand new episode. Now, we drop brand new episodes every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and we also do a live stream called Ask for Help every Sunday at 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. That's done by my good friend Brian Baker and myself. We get together and answer your questions about 3D printing. So until I see you next time, please remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print. If you want to see some more videos in the playlist or get a little bit more information, go ahead and check out some of the ones here off to the side. Have a great weekend.